Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is KDFlash96 or FlaShFTW from Team Liquid, and I'm doing another Analyze This. Gonna be game number 5 between C versus Larva. C screen, unfortunately, is a little compacted. I'm not sure what's going on there. It's kind of weird, to be honest with you. I think what he's doing is he's playing on the 16:9, so I think the dual FP VOD guy decided to switch his to a more compact screen so you can see his entire screen rather than just like, you know, only portions of it, which is gonna make for a little bit of an awkward cast, or at least awkward viewing in terms of that, but I think it should be fine, so don't worry about that. Anyways, this game was recommended to me by a good friend of mine, Connor5620, also known as Home of StarCraft on YouTube. Definitely go check him out. He is an amazing person, and also he's a good player. I think that he beats me generally. I think he's like B level or something like that, but he's a very, very strong player. Which reminds me that I have to go play with him soon because I want to try to improve. Join the new clan these days. It's a DM-Disturbed Mind. I'm going to be participating in the Pan American Team League. Hopefully you'll see a couple of my FP VOD replays on there. Might cast them or just stream them live. We'll see what happens. So definitely, you know, gonna be pretty cool. Gonna be casting those and doing that. Anyways, so let's jump into this game right here. C vs Larva. Gonna take a look at the game in terms of analysis. I don't want to do casting as much because that's kind of not the style I want with series. I know with the two pro games I've done before with Flash vs JL and Flash vs Best, I kind of did it in more of a caster format, and obviously I emphasize more heavily on the analysis rather than the play-by-play caster, but I want to do this more analytically. So anyways, we're on Tau Cross, 3-player map. The map is a very balanced map. I really like this map, actually. I wish this was included in the map pool, but hopefully it will be included in the next rotation. Blizzard should stop using terrible maps like Python, Nostalgia, and Arcadia. Like, come on, dude. Even Fighting Spirit, I don't even like in the map pool. But I think I've told people what my preferred map pool would be. It'd be something like, I guess Neo J wouldn't be that bad of one, would it? Huh, we could replace Fighting Spirit with that one. But Circuit Breakers, some good 4-player map. Like I said, La Mancha is a decent one. Neo Jade's a decent one. Salamander's a cool one, I guess. And then for 3-player maps, I would do something like Tau Cross is one of them. Outsider, I guess you could leave in. Or something like El Nino or Great Barrier Reef, as it is known nowadays. Or even Triathlon. I want like fun maps in there, man. And then 2-player maps, obviously the good old Destination Blue Storm will be fine. Polaris Rhapsody is a great map as well for 2 players. 2-player maps are just hard in general, to be honest. So anyways, let's just jump in this game real quick. We're going to notice that Larva is doing a standard 3-hatch into gas build. Very, very standard. C, rather, has seen that it is this kind of build. So what you can do is you can skip any marine that you want to build and then immediately throw down your command center on 16 supply, I think, or 15. No, it's 16. And so you don't have to build a single marine. So that's a little bit of a trick that you can do if you scout your Zerg opponent first. If not, then you have to build your supply depot on 15. And then your command center on like 20, I think, or 19 or 20 is when you want your command center down by the latest. So C is going to opt for a 2-racks build this game, and then getting gas right after, then getting an academy soon after that as well. Very, very standard. And for Terran players, in Terran vs Zerg, you don't need to build a second supply depot after your first one, or how should I phrase? You only need to build 2 supply depots and then barracks. If you build your command center after your second supply depot, then you need to build 3 supply depots before. So this is just kind of a general rule of thumb. It's a little bit of a trick for people to know. So that's kind of helpful for some people. So see, what he's doing really well here is he's trying to get a scout in. As again, scouting in StarCraft is one of the most important things in the game. You always need to be scouting your opponent because of all the different build orders these days. You're gonna see Larva. Larva is really good APM here. You see, he's gonna see the Marines coming up, and so he knows that there's 4 Marines that are be coming down across the map, and he knows that he needs to make a couple more Zerglings to be able to ward them away. Always really important to have this Overlord spotting, and obviously if you get in the right position first, it's always great. So the academy is finished now for C. He's going to immediately go into, looks like, no, one more comsat, or one more SCV rally, and then he's going to build comsats, which is pretty good. You always want to have those SCVs coming out. And there's the 1 Firebat, 1 Medic. And here's a big Ling attack here. SCV's getting pulled off the line. This is really smart here from C, with also the fire bat there. This is a really bad attack here from Larva. Yes, he got SCVs to pull off the line. At the same time, he lost a ton of Lings, so that means he can't really deny too much pressure. Yes, he's got Ling speed as well, and he's denying a little bit of mining, but at the same time, once these 2 fire bats are out, and once Stim is going to come out, I mean, 3 fire bats is just such an incredible amount of damage to be held by these Zerglings. And he's going to see the SCVs going to be coming in, and the SCV is going to get a full scout off on everything. So he's going to see a Spire, so he knows that there's going to be missile turrets that are coming out soon, and then also knows that because this is a triple fire bat push here with 1 medic, he's definitely going to have to be very, very scared of a sunken bust. He's going to run 3 Zerglings by, and fortunately the Marines are going to be able to get there in time and ward them away. C just playing really defensive right now with those reinforcements. This is something you want to do. Don't always just rally your reinforcements over. And here comes Larva with his couple of Zerglings. This is really good. Try to, you know, snipe a couple of SCVs, get a lot of scouting information in if he's able to get the Lings into the main base. Unfortunately, I do not think he did. No, he didn't. So really good by C there to deny scouting. Again, information is everything. So, you know, he can see how many barracks that C has. Right now he's only at 2, which is pretty standard from this kind of a build. You probably know this anyways. But he can also see the turret timing as well. Turret timing is very important. And it looks like C is just going to opt for the 3rd barracks rather than starting any of the missile turrets, which I think is fine because he doesn't need missile turrets just yet. But like this is what I was saying, you know, scouting information here is going to see the 4, would have seen 4 barracks going down. Which means he's going to play a little more aggressively in the mid game. Generally, people you'll see stick to 3 barracks and then start getting the factory and starport up. There's 1 Ling here. Unfortunately, will not be able to see too much. Well, maybe he saw a little bit. He only saw 1 barracks though, so Zergling is not the greatest vision unit. They have actually a very, very small vision. Yeah, meters are on the way, so C's definitely got some a little bit curiously delayed turrets. So if Larva's able to get there in time, might be able to punish this. And the turret's not in the best position either. There's no turrets around his barracks, which is why C unfortunately is forced to bring back all the units. Larva, good job denying again that scout. This is really important, is always denying that scout, and using Lings to patrol the map is always really important. These Marines though are trying to get that +1 upgrade. I don't think they have it yet. These units can try to deal some damage. Once the Marines get +1 is really when the Mutalisks are not able to do as much effectiveness. But before that, you're able to kind of get into the main lines of the Terran and be able to do it. Larva is one of the best Micro, by the way. You can definitely check out this game for some of the best. And now that he knows that C is pushing across the map with a little bit of a battle force, he probably wants to remacro a couple of these Zerglings out. And what the Zerglings are end up doing is basically you can say, hey Terran, you can't move out just yet, or else I'm going to crush your initial attack, and then from there I'm able to really grab a comfortable 3rd. C is going to realize that he is grabbing that 3rd though, which means he's able to pressure it and kind of stop it for a little bit. And yeah, he does see it with the fire bat. So this is really good on his part. Again, scouting is so important, especially in Terran vs Zerg, because you need to absolutely find out where your Zerg opponent is taking that 3rd base. And as a Zerg opponent, you really want to deny the scouting because you want to make sure that wherever you're taking that 3rd base doesn't get scouted, so it has the most amount of longevity before lurkers are able to start coming out. So in the meantime, instead, Larva just like they go into Hydra Den and get a hive off 2 bases. This is unfortunately what happens when you get the scout information done. You try to pick up that Overlord, nicely done. It's a good scan. Yeah, I know a lot of people are like, well, he used a scan to kill an Overlord. Yeah, but this is a very important Overlord. It's scouting when the Terran is pushing out, and that's what's really key. Larva here, so Tower Cross does have an issue with Zergs a little bit, is that it's kind of difficult to take your 3rd base, because there's only really 1 good third base location for gas. The other one's really far out in the open, which would be the 12 o'clock expansion for Larva. You can't really take that, because it's really, again, far out. And now Larva has made a bunch of these Zerglings, so he's going to try to combat this Marine medic push, and the key issue is that he's got this these forces kind of spread out. So he's trying to deny the reinforcements from grouping up with the main army that's currently denying the 3rd base of C. And if C's able to really combine these forces, that's when the game is almost impossible for Zerg to really establish himself in the mid game. And so this is really smart from C right now. He's continuously denying this 3rd base, which is forcing the Zerg to really play 2 base aggression and force to rebuild Mutalisks while he's delaying for lurkers. Generally, you want to just make 11 Mutalisk in the very beginning of the game and not really have to worry about building additional ones, because you're going to get lurkers out and you have a 3rd base up, which means you don't have to build more Mutalisk. Mutalisk are trying to, again, grab the map control and be able to really deny the Terran from being able to push out too heavily. So right now, what C is doing is really smart. He's using the choke point as to his greatest advantage right here. Right here, you see this on Larva's screen. Notice he can't really push through because of this small gap. The Zerglings want to be able to surround the Marines, but if they have a very small gap to go to, all I have to do is put one Fire Bat right here, and when the Zerglings try to surround, the Fire Bat's going to melt down all of the Zerglings. And this is a really good play here by C. You notice he's trying to keep this Fire Bat right here. If he's able to snipe the Fire Bat, it's going to be really good. He does. And now he can attack with the Zerglings. But again, look, the medic block is pretty good here. But, you know, he will take a reasonable chunk of damage with these Meliscan Lings. But this also buys a lot of time right now for C, if you notice the mini-map down here, to push up to the middle portion of the map and then be able to come up and attack this third base location. And so what this is essentially doing is it's a little bit of a tug of war. Larva is trying to deny this third base, or establish this third base and deny attacks here. Now that he's got the lurkers up because he brought the Hydralisk with the army to morph into lurkers while he was combating it, he's able to bring these lurkers in finally into position and able to set them up in the proper position for these Marines. So once the armor upgrade from these Marines kick in, then they might be able to combat it. Or when the first siege tank or science vessels start coming out, then the lurkers will be in a little bit of trouble. Larva right here, you just saw him. I can go back just a little bit. You'll see him do these overlords. You see down here, watch his overlord. Get good overlord spec. Because remember, vision is so important, especially against the build that C is going for, because you never know if he's going to go for SK Terran style. He might go for double dropships, because he hasn't seen tanks yet, right? So he has no idea if C is going to opt for dropships or if he's going into tanks. SK Terran these days has been a very popular build. Flash has been using it almost exclusively, hardly ever goes into the mech switch anymore, hardly ever uses tanks anymore either, because SK Terran for him is just really a great way to deal with the lurkers. You can drop around them, and then especially with the great micro Flash that Flash has, you're able to really combat it super well. So again, we're going to see the Mules come in here, try to get a couple of SCVs in. He's found a little bit of a gap here, actually, which is really good for him. Notice that there's no missile turrets up here for C, so the Mules are able to kind of come into this location. And because there's no missile turrets down here, the Mules can actually just dance around on top of these supply depots. And the way that C has actually structured his base is a little bit detrimental to him, because these SCVs, when they're going back and forth through the gas geyser, the Marines are going to have a hard time funneling through this little choke here, as well as the fact that they're not going to be able to get around this factory starport, which is down here, engineering base science facility setup. So this is a very good position to be if you're the Zerg player right now, because you're able to find a little pocket, and these pockets are really difficult to find. And they are a little bit risky. You'll notice that I think Larva lost maybe one Mules in that exchange, so it's not as risky as it looks, but all of your Mules take a great amount of damage from all the missile turrets that they're going to have to run through on their way out of the base. But at the same time, you're buying a lot of time because you're forcing the reinforcements from the Terran to kind of deal with the Mutalisk rather than going with the initial push. And now that we've got the 9-minute push, it is roughly about 12 minutes. So again, Larva has really significantly delayed C, but also C went for the 4 racks rather than the 3 racks, which is one of the reasons why this push is a little bit delayed, but it gives him a lot more early to mid-game power rather than having a smaller power, which the Zerglings Mutalisk would have been easily able to clean up, which is what Larva tried to go for. But because he has an extra barracks producing Marines and medics, he's not actually able to go for that big Zergling surround, especially when he takes advantage of the fact that you have a great positioning in this little choke here with his Marine medic. So again, it's a big trade-off. You have a trade-off of the early game and the mid game in exchange for a delayed later tech timing with the science vessels and siege tanks. So it's very key to know what pros are doing, and they have to understand what the build order means to them. And this is something that I think that a lot of the beginner players should need to understand is when you go for a build order, don't just blindly look at a build order on Wikipedia or a pro player and just look at it blindly and say, this is a build order I want to learn. But you have to understand what the build order is attempting to do, right? So in this type of build order, C's main goal is kind of a hybrid between the +1 5 racks and the 3 racks timing, right? And he wants to not be able to sacrifice too much of the tank vessel timing in exchange for a little stronger of a mid-game timing with his Marine medic to delay the third base. And he's done that. He's delayed this third base tremendously, but at the same time, he has sacrificed roughly about 2.5 minutes of timing on the vessel and the 3 tanks, which means this gives more time for Larva to establish his hive tech. So again, all of this is very crucial to understand. So when you go into a build order, do not go into a build order blindly. Do not just say, I want to do this. This build looks good. No, you have to understand what the builder is trying to do. And we're going to see Larva here. Looks like he's going to go for a big backstab attack here. Where C is going to try to establish his third base. And C is going to realize, I think, that this big attack is coming. And yeah, he's forced to cancel this third base here. But he's got a lot of reinforcements here. But again, they're a little bit spread out. We're going to see how good the micro is here. Here come the lurkers. They're going to try to fire a great swarm right on top of the two lurkers. But he's going to be able to push in to this this third base location from Larva while being able to really establish himself. His macro slipping a little bit. Oh no, the Mutalisks! The Mutalisks from Larva getting... Oh no, Larva, no! I don't have sound in right now, but I think Larva's screaming right now. Maybe not. But more firebats coming out, and so when Swarm goes off, by the way, I see a lot of players. I mean, obviously we love Marines, right? Marines are such a versatile unit, great against air units, great against ground units. But when Swarm goes down, firebats are really where they shine. They really are able to kill off those pesky Zerglings underneath the Dark Storm very, very quickly. So are siege tanks, and so we see this big backstab coming in, and what this allows Larva to do is with his Mutalisk, he's able to kind of clean up these siege tanks over there. But the issue is he's already lost his third base. So in this position, I think C is actually pretty far ahead right now. Maybe not super far ahead, but he's reasonably far ahead because he's delayed this third gas from Larva for such a long time. Now the Larva, if you look on the minimap, he's forced to take that 12 o'clock expansion. But he's trying to leapfrog his way in here with lurkers. If he can delay enough time, enough mining from this base, he'll actually be in a pretty comfortable position. As these so many SCVs are getting pulled off the line right now, and then the lurkers and lings are kind of in the middle of the map trying to just position themselves against the Terran army. And a couple of these good swarm again, but he needs a lot more Scourge right now to deal with this. These are defilers right here. They're doing a pretty good job. I think it looks like C might go for a pincer attack with these a lot of firebats. Here they go. Gonna try to surround this lurker before the splash damage is able to deal enough damage. Another swarm goes down, but I think the splash damage is enough. Yes, it is. One lone firebat makes that alive, but they kill off the two lurkers. That's what's key. At the same time, Nidus Canal is going down at the third base for Larva, which is now he's trying to again reestablish that third gas. But if you look at the mineral counts right now, notice that he's behind by 40 supply, which is normal, right? Zerg is supposed to be behind a supply, but he's only got about 600 minerals and 400 gas to work with, which means he can't really go into the Ultralisk ever. He can try to go for a little bit of upgrades, but he can't go for many, because again, he doesn't have the gas count. Usually you want to be at about 500 to 600 gas as a Zerg if you really want to start teching up big into those double upgrades, double Evo Chamber with melee and carapace upgrades. NC is sitting comfortably. Obviously, you could have a couple more barracks made right now. Depends on what kind of build he's going to go for. If he's going to go for more factories, which he is right now, because he looks like he's going to go for the Mech Switch of the Vulture, then, you know, he probably wants to have a little bit of extra bank, just because when he makes those factories, he wants to be able to continuously make more Medic and Marines while taking that third base behind, which is the goal. Another big Consume here, or sorry, Irradiate. Here comes the Consume trying to plague the Marines, only gets like 3. But it does plague the Science Vessel, so that's not bad. And now at this point, this is a really good position for C to be in, because he's kind of establishing himself. Larva's got a lot of units here, with this couple Scourge now finally out. But if you look at the minimap for C's point of perspective, you'll see all these Marines and then Firebats are kind of in a line up here in this location. If you pretend that Larva doesn't have a screen here, this is in a little big perimeter. So any kind of attack, he'll be able to really establish himself. Because right now, he doesn't really want to go on the aggressive. He wants to sit back, take his third base, tech up to the Mech Switch. And that's what's really key and important to him. He's going to see that this third base is once again coming up for Larva. And he might push out a little bit, but he's also very wary of the backstab that Larva might go for, which is why you'll notice here, if we go back just a moment, see if he shows it again. Right here, he's keeping a couple Marines back, just to be safe against any kind of backstab, and putting a couple mines there as well. So that's really important as well. He wants to make sure that he's able to save himself from a backstab attack, but also using enough units to scare Larva into defending his third base once again. And Larva's doing a pretty good job of sniping these Firebats, which are really crucial. Because again, Firebats take up quite a bit of gas actually once the game continues to progress. And now C's going for the standard double expand. And he's going to soon lift up all of his barracks, because now his factories are starting to come into play. Ooh, C not paying attention to these Marines. A couple of these Marines are going to take quite a bit of Lurker Spines. He wants to plague. Nice split. Really good split there from C. We're going to see that one more time right here. We're going to see, notice this Defiler, watching this screen, watch that control right here, or on C screen himself. Watch this control here. Really nice split right there. The Plague only gets 2 Marines. That's very, very good. Very, very well done. But he's not going to be able to contest with 3 Lurkers, unfortunately. But this Command Center is going to be able to lift up to this Uno-only base. And more Irradiates going down. So another swarm just to delay, and now finally here comes the big barracks liftoff. So see he's double expanding because he has the map control now. Larva can't really do too much until Larva's able to get that 4th gas up probably, or at least another base running for those middle accounts, and then you can start flooding in Zerglings across the map. But we'll have to see, obviously, if he chooses to go for this big Ling rush, which is he's kind of going for right now. He's seen this 4th base, he's seen it, so he right now he wants to start doing this massive Ling aggression, which is what he's doing, if you notice. And what he's really trying to do right now is just delay time from this Terran force to really be able to delay for the Zerglings to really take effect for his bases to come online. More lurkers coming in, they're going to be able to take really good advantage of this bridge position, but actually all the lurkers are getting radiated, so they're just going to die instantly. And C knows they can push up this side of the map now, because this other side of the map, notice again down here, if you look at the minimap, he's already established himself on the southern side of the map, or sorry, this western side of the map, which means that he's now able to push up this eastern side of the map. So again, StarCraft is like warfare. You want to establish yourself in a position so you don't get counterattacked, which is really what Zerg likes to do. And if Zerg is not able to do that, Larva can't really establish himself in a good position because he's trying to attack and defend on all sides. Whereas C has already gotten a pretty entrenched position over down at that bottom left-hand portion of the map. He's already pretty solid down there, so it's very difficult for him to continue. Notice here comes the big attack. All the Lings go down. There's a Defiler. Might get a swarm off. It does get a swarm off. And C, again, he's only a couple units. You know, he's trying to be really cost efficient with these units. He's got a couple siege tanks now that he's really full on into the mech switch, but he's got the Marines and Firebats kind of spread out to a decent amount. He's got a couple of Spider Mines there, and that's really all he wants to do, right? Defend his 3rd base, let this 3rd base pay for itself while he's continuing pushing up this right-hand side of the map and attack these bases from Larva. Here comes a scan, science vessels floating overhead. Good swarm. And here comes the bigger radiates. Oh, gotta be careful with the science vessel. One of them goes down. He's got 3 left in the air with a lot of energy actually shared between those. So there you go. Great plague by Larva. And it's really key to holding on, because once those Marines get all played and they're all 1 HP and the medics are just sucked out of energy by that one plague, I mean, those units are effectively useless later in the game. You can just send like a control group of Zerglings in, which will be fine. Again, look at this great Spider-Man placement here. All these Lings over here get killed. So after that, you know, just putting Spider-Mines behind this because there's not really much that he can do. Great tank split right now from all these siege tanks. And all these Zerglings are just going to die and melt to these siege tanks. Obviously, a couple of these will go down. But C is going to lose a couple of SCVs here. He's continuing to try to ferry a couple of these lurkers over into a good position. I mean, he's doing a pretty good job of it, you know, I'm not going to lie. But he's not delaying as much mining as he really wants to hope for right now. Because C's 4th base is really starting to kick in. He's soon going to probably expand to that 3 o'clock expansion, get that 5th gas for himself. Or sorry, the 4th gas for himself. And these Spider Mines are still doing a tremendous job of warding off these Zerglings from coming down across these alleyways across the map. And I think that Larva really should try to abuse this middle portion of the map here, that C doesn't have Spider Mines, and use this to his advantage, because he can try to use Zerglings, run down the middle, and then split off into 2 groups here, and attack the natural base, as well as this mineral only base. But we'll see. That might be one of the issues right now for the Zerg player. But now the gas is starting to come online a little bit for Larva. You'll notice he's got a really hefty bank. He's probably going to transition into the double evolution chamber Ultralisks. I mean, he's got enough gas. That right there is about 8 Ultralisks. So it's a very, very potent force that he's going to be able to start building. Got a lot of Zerglings. Look how many Zerglings he's got right now, if you notice. This is really when Zerg is able to kind of turn the tides a little bit in terms of map control. They're able to really use the Zerglings to just run down the course of the map and put a lot of pressure onto the Terran player. But again, he's not really using this middle portion of the map. Tower Cross is a little bit like Longinus. For you guys who haven't played Longinus, Longinus has kind of like that ring on the outside where you're able to kind of attack from those positions, but then it's got a nice little middle where you're able to also throw in flanks. And I think Day 9 versus in the game between Chill and Combat EX was like, you know, you really want to be able to control the sides of the map, but also the middle of the map is still really important in terms of flanking and gaining some ground. And so I feel like that's an issue that Larva hasn't really been doing yet, is that he's not really been able to get control of the middle of the map and then use that to his advantage right now. He's just trying to stubbornly bash his head against a big Marine medic Spider-Man wall. And so that's one of the reasons I feel like he's not being cost efficient right now. He's really just sending his Zerg. I mean, Zerg units right now are not very cost efficient. Zerg in general, it's ironic because Mutalisk and Lurkers are very cost efficient, and then when they get to Zerglings, they're just absolutely not cost efficient whatsoever. But here comes the big Irradiate on the Science Vessels, the Eraser trick on the Zerglings because they're only at 35 HP. And this Irradiate trick is pretty cute. Most of the Zerglings are taking a ton of HP, and they're actually sitting right on top of this nice canal. If you notice this right here, this is pretty cute. You know, watch these Science Vessels here. They're gonna sit right on top of this nice canal, so when Zerglings or Lurkers or Defiles come out, they're gonna immediately taking damage from this. So that's really cute. But Swarm's gonna go off, and this attack will be held. Really good Swarms there, 2 well-positioned Swarms. The Defiles at 3 HP, sadly. We'll see, and a couple of these Science Vessels will go down to this Scourge. But Larva's actually been able to hold. So he's been able to hold on 5 bases now, which is really, really important. He's got 5 gas, which means he can start to go into Lurkers. But oh my god, a great tank drop here on top of this little ledge because of the fact that, you know, he's not building any more Mutalisk, he's not building any more Guardians or anything. But you saw the Ultralisk Cavern for Larva, that's really key. So he's now going to be able to start doing that. And so now we'll take a look at what C's done. So C has kind of pushed up the eastern side of the map, realizes that this kind of is hopeless now because now Larva's really entrenched with the Nice Canal at these 2 bases. He's now trying to push up to this middle only base and take the western side now. So he's given up the eastern side, kind of, just momentarily, to take the western side of the map because he realizes that most of Larva's attention right now is diverted towards that western side. So he can try to expand to the west now. And that's really key. So he's taking that middle only down there at the 9 o'clock expansion. Because you'll notice where Larva's units are, all of Larva's units are making their way from this 12 o'clock expansion, and they're going to push this way. And Larva will most likely take this middle only base, which means that most of the units are going to station around these 4 bases here, which will be his key areas, which means that, again, now C's going to just switch his forces to the other side of the map, and he's going to leave just, you know, a little small contingency here to defend this base, while pushing up this side of the map and then attacking to the natural. Because now all of the infrastructure that Larva has kind of established itself, where the attention is going to be going in that direction. Because all the attention from Larva is over on that east, towards that natural base. It's very, very important. So now look at this. C's big army push is coming towards this western side now. You'll notice that this, watch the minimap, all of his units, here it comes, is coming up the middle now. And this is finally where Larva is able to start kind of trying to retake the control of the middle of the map. And I mean, good Swarms are going to force back this big tank ball. But this tank ball is growing a little bit out of control right now. And I don't think Larva is very comfortable with this. Another great plague dodge by these units from C. But now that he knows that all of Larva's units are now in the middle of the map, you'll see, he now can just go up this side again because now he knows that because there's so many Lurkers in the middle, they're not going to have too much defenses over here at this base. So now he's pushing over to that side of the map. So it's almost like a game of cat and mouse. If you want to consider it that way, right? Because see, what he's doing is wherever Larva is really kind of defending the position, he's going to avoid that area. So originally, he wanted to kind of slice through the middle and then attack up to the natural base of Larva. Larva stops it with an attack in the middle. He's going to say, okay, take the middle. Now I know all of your units are not there. I'm going to be able to push and swing back up to the east and try to cut your units out of position. And that's really good. His tanks are a little bit clumped up. He doesn't have too much anti-air. It's a little bit scary. And the Vultures here are trying to get a little bit of harassment done. Not too much, unfortunately. They got a lot of Zerglings coming in to really clean that up. Got a couple Spider Mines that won't really do too much. But now that these Mutalisk are out, you might see C build a couple Valkyries, but mostly he's going into Goliath. He doesn't want to build Valkyries just yet. Mutalisk haven't gone to such a big number. But another thing that this is forcing is that it's forcing Larva to build Mutalisks and not Ultralisks, right? How long has Larva had that Ultralisk Cavern for? Quite a while. I definitely think he's got both upgrades upgraded at least, or at least one of them upgraded on those Ultralisks, which means you want to start producing them. Instead, he's got a big gas sink into like about 9 or so Mutalisks. And that's really bad because now you're delaying time again for those Ultras. You want to start building those Ultras, build massive amounts of Zerglings to combat this big tank force, because that's what's really important, is that if you're able to get this big tank force up, you need to counter it with Ultras to soak up the damage and then come in with a bunch of Zerglings. And Goliaths, unfortunately, are very, very cost efficient, especially with the Radiates out on top against these Mutalisks. So you see these Goliaths just coming in, microing really well. Good Irradiate on the middle Mutalisk right there. Not a good split. Here the split's finally coming in. A lot of Mutalisks are damaged quite a bit. But they're going to come in and do a lot of damage here at this middle only base. But see, again, Goliaths are surprisingly slightly immobile. Let's see, but more meals are being made, which means, again, no Ultralisk. I understand that this is a diversionary tactic from Larva, but C right now has got a really great position with the Siege tanks. We're going to see how good his attack is, though. He's got a great swarm. Oh, the Siege, the Spider Mine's actually not in a good position for C, right on top of his tanks. But he's still able to hold. He's still got enough of a solid tank line to really kind of hold his position. And the Mutalisk now, you'll notice that right now Larva has got those Mutalisks down here in this bottom location, you'll notice. At the very, very bottom right. We'll see what he does with those. But again, C's macro has been on point this game. He hasn't floated many minerals yet. He's all the way up to 165 supply. Larva is catching up very quickly though. And this is where I feel like C right now needs to again make that move to the middle. And try to, again, put Larva on the back foot. Because right now Larva is, because again, Zerg has a faster reinforcement time, especially when you're on the defensive. Zerg is going to be able to out-reinforce you, especially with the fast Zerglings, which take 2 seconds to make. Whereas your tanks are going down, take a while to remake. C is trying to bring up sluggish siege tanks all the way up to the front. Where I feel like he should really try to be attacking towards the western side of the map right now. He's got no gas left, which means these tanks, the Zerglings, are starting to become cost efficient. And this is where the tide starts to turn now for the Zerg player. Yeah, he has 4 gas right now, but unfortunately the problem is that he's being forced to make a lot of these Goliaths in favor of all these Mutalisks that are coming out, which is going to take away from the gas needed to build those tanks. This is just being very, very pesky here. Decent amount of SCV kills. And there's Barracks here. Gonna go down to the Mutalisk, so it means, again, denying a little bit of vision. And C's gonna realize, oh, I had this base all along. So we can take that. So it's a pretty close game right now. Larva's got 5 gas. C's gonna go up to 4 gas soon. And once again, this big push here on the western side here from Larva. Going to try to use Zerglings to really deal with it. But once Spider Mines go down in this position, it's really difficult for the Zerg to really combat it. Except when you bring a ton of Mutalisk out and there's no anti-air. So once again, the anti-air is really coming to a factor here for C. And this is one of the key issues with Terran disease. I really feel like they need Valkyries because Valkyries are so mobile. They're able to really deal with these Mutalisks. And once you get like 3 or 4 Valkyries out, any kind of Mutalisk attack is going to be delayed. I mean, all you're doing is sacrificing 5 tanks in this area. You lose 5 tanks and you're able to almost stop any kind of air attack from the Zerg player. Queens melt to Valkyries with a +1 air attack upgrade. Mutalisk melt to Valkyries anyways. So it's a really good investment rather than building so many Goliaths that are very immobile, which means you're going to have more Goliaths out across the map. And Goliaths are only a temporary solution to deal with Mutalisks, because they're not able to really keep up with them, as well as the fact that when the Goliaths move forward, Mutalisks can try to bait them into Zerglings or Lurkers, and getting Goliaths get absolutely melted. So right now, once again, C is starting to go low on supply, with money, and Larva is continuously having a reasonable bank. Now, he hasn't yet... Oh, Guardians! This is what I'm talking about. This is a great tech switch here from Larva. He realizes that C right now is extremely weak to these units, and he really needs to start building Valkyries. And we'll see if he starts building them from his science facility. We'll have to wait. But it looks like on his first-person perspective, he hasn't yet. And so that's why I like, building Goliaths initially and see if he makes how many Mutalisks he makes. But once these, Mutalisks get into such a high amount, you really need, I think, a more permanent solution to deal with this. The Larva is not really microing Goliaths too well. There it is. There's the pullback. From Scourge, another vessel going down, which again helps a lot with the anti-air, because you're not able to get a lot of irradiates on these massive amount of Guardians. And again, Larva's just delaying time, trying to bank up more gas. He's just throwing Zerglings at his opponent right now, trying to keep him back. And he's actually doing a pretty good job of it. C hasn't really been able to launch an attack yet, because 1, he's dealing with these big Guardians right now, and 2, because these Zerglings are continuously trying to attack these Goliaths and take away the anti-air capabilities from his Terran opponent. But he's doing a really good job actually of focus firing these Guardians out. I didn't expect this too much. But Larva once again here, once these Zerglings get really into position, good initial attack here, good sweep with these to attack with this, get rid of Spider Mines first. Becomes a big Zergling attack, good swarm on top of these Goliaths. Fortunately, there's not enough damage, I feel like, there's not enough Zerglings. But he lost a lot of gas. Notice this, Larva lost a lot of gas, so I think he's starting to build those Ultralisks. And once those Ultralisks come out, that's where I think he's going to be able to attack one of these bases very powerfully with a good Defiler mix. He's got actually a lot of Defilers, a little more than he should have. And he's got 5 of them. Probably should keep 2 towards his natural position. But a good Vulture drop right now into this base. And Larva really needs to re-macro those drones over. But yeah, here come the Ultralisks. This is what I'm talking about right here. these Goliaths actually did pretty well against Guardians. I'm actually a little bit surprised. I thought that Larva would be able to micro them a little bit better, keep them above that ledge, especially to kind of siege down the space. But now that he's made a lot of Goliaths here, these Ultralisk and Zerglings are going to be able to do a ton of damage. The siege tanks not looks like they're in the greatest position right now. Oh, he's got a lot. Never mind. He's got a lot in the back. There's no swarm coming down right now. Yeah, he's got to pull back these Ultralisks. He definitely needs one of the Defiles to come with them. But he really hasn't been able to do that yet. And now that he's gone down this Ultras line, he really can't really switch back and just pure Ling Defiler. He has to go with Ultras now because he's really committed himself into this attack that he's invested so much money into them that if they don't do enough damage, he's really not going to be able to get a lot done. And Irradiates on Ultralisk is just some of the worst things in the world as a Zerg player to deal with. Trying to split up the Ultralisk, doing a pretty good job of that. But once C starts getting up to this like 3-3 upgrade, it's just so difficult to deal with as a Zerg player. Because Tank's basically one-shot Zerglings, Ultralisk die very quickly. He's trying to get a good swarm on his tank line, but again, the tank line right now from C is just too deep. It's a very good position. He's got Spider Mines in the right positions right now. He's got enough Goliaths and Vultures as well as a supporting cast, and great micro there, really pulling back these tanks right before the swarm is able to really catch up to him. And right now, the tide is really starting to favor C. It really does. I don't see a way for Larva to really break right now because there's just too many tanks. C is maxed out right now, almost on 3-3. Again, another great Vulture run by into this base, killing off a lot of drones actually. And the Larva did not see this. He's losing a ton of drones. He's gonna have to. He doesn't want to rebuild drones with his macro right now. He really wants to continue to make Ultralisk, but he might have to reinforce it. More Irradiates going off on these Defiles. Again, these Vultures have cleaned up this base of mining. No more gas here for Larva. And he's sitting comfortable. Yeah, he lost money on this third gas for a little bit, but he's really sitting comfortable. He's still on 5. He's still on a 3-base mining right now. He's mining off of the left side and that one middle only at the bottom side. Now, obviously, his tank count is what's really key right now because he doesn't have as much gas, but he's able to really start pushing because Larva has used up his entire bank. He's not really able to continue the pressure that most Zergs that want to do this. So as a Zerg player right now, you really need to consider something right now is, you know, he's got too many Goliaths out right now. He's got too many tanks out. What am I supposed to do in this situation? And again, I feel like he needs to try to make good backstab attacks, try to whittle down the tank count, get on top of them with drops. And I feel like maybe he should have gone for drops earlier instead of those Mutalisks, and the drops would have been more effective to neuter the tank count. And then once he goes for the Goliaths, he's only using drops and Overlords. Rather than using a lot of gas sink into those Mutalisks, he'll have a lot more Ultralisks earlier on. I think that's the issue right here. Because he went into his Mutalisk transition and it just wasn't that effective. He killed about 4 or 5 tanks, but if you remember the Sulky game that I casted against Flash, Sulky killed off at least like 10 or 12 tanks there with his Mutalisks, which paid for themselves. The problem with the Terran Mech army is once you get such a large tank count, it's really hard to stop. You need to have a permanent solution to kill more tanks off, and that's really what Larva hasn't been able to do yet. And then the Guardians, he sunk a lot of gas in these Guardians, and they just haven't been able to do it. I thought they were going to be able to doing a lot more. Unfortunately, just unable to really defend. Larva's got no more minerals, no more gas here. And C is still amounting to a significant bank of 4k minerals, so he can just make pure Vulture right now, and they do fine against Zerglings and Ultralisk because of Spider Mines. But yeah, there's only one more Ultralisk left in the army for Larva. And again, you know, I think that drop play is better than Mutalisk play on any given day. And that's, I think, one of the issues with Larva this game. So he really went for such a gas-intensive build to counter these tanks rather than going for a more permanent solution of really just using minerals and only a 200 gas investment to get drops with crack upgrade. There's the GG. So, like, I think if we go back to when he starts building these Mutalisks, he does it so he does it, let's look here. He does it in retaliation to the drop that C does on top of his natural base over here. Notice these siege tanks. This is where it really came into play, and again, I think drop would have been fine here. You load up these couple Zerglings here into that Overlord, and then the Zerglings kill siege tanks very, very quickly. Instead, he went to really massive amount of Mutalisks. Look at the gas count. Very key. So let's see when these Mutalisks come out. So he made 8 Mutalisks here, and then he continues to make them through the course of the game, which is why his gas count is so low. This gas here with 8 Mutalisks, think about it. If he had 8 less Mutalisks and invested in drop upgrade, he'd have 600 more gas. He'd be sitting at about 1,200 gas supply, and he could literally start building Ultralisks right now. It's about 6 Ultralisks that he could be building, and then just mass Zerglings. And then he continues to build Meteors. Look, another 3 Meteors here. So that's 1100 gas. Again, a 200 gas investment for the drop upgrade. So that's 900 gas. He'd be at 1700 gas right now. So let's continue to see how many more Meteors he builds. Another one, actually 2 more, right? So again, how many Meteors did he build, right? And you remember in the early game, the C was able to had such a great early mid game with that with the 4th barracks, that he was able to put himself in a situation where Larva has to commit more gas in the early game to remaking more Meteorisks. And now he's remaking Meteorisks rather than going for drop play. If you notice here, there's 4 Goliaths out, right? Let's go back. Sorry, I didn't mean to unpause. He's got like about 4 Goliaths down here. So if you see 4 Goliaths, either with the Meteorisks you're supposed to attack the Goliath and then try to attack the rest of the siege tanks, but he pulls back. He pulls back. So let's see how many tank kills he gets with these Meteorisks. He was not able to get any so far. Right, and we're just trying to see how much damage these Meteors can really be able to do. And I feel like they did not do enough damage to pay for themselves. So let's see. He's got a ton of Goliaths right here because he saw the meta switch. If he sees drop upgrade, he might get those Goliaths, but you haven't invested the gas, right? Goliaths are able to counter Meteors pretty well once you get up a lot, and they also counter drop. But if the first drop is really successful and really surprising to your opponent with a ton of Swarm, a ton of Zerglings, and a couple of Ultralisks to kind of to take the tank damage, you're able to save up all of that gas and continue to rebuild Ultralisk while neutering the tank count. These Meteors just overall just didn't do enough damage. Great, you attack SCVs right here, right? What kind of gas damage are you doing? It's really in the late portions of the game where you needed to do damage to gas units. Let me see where Meteors come into play. You know what's so funny? He uses Meteors here to attack siege tanks, but Swarm works both ways, by the way. If some people might not know this, Swarm works both ways. It's not just Zerg units that get impacted by Swarm, it's every unit gets impacted by Swarm. So siege tanks right now are actually underneath the Swarm, which the Meteors can't even attack anymore, which is hilarious. So these Meteors can't do anything. They're attacking the barracks right now. I mean, great, you're killing SCVs, but again, it's not a long-term solution. You're not really killing off the gas. There's too many siege tanks. And, okay, great, you kill like maybe 1 siege tank right there. Kind of whatever. You Greater Spire. So, let's look at it this way, right? How much does a Meteors cost? 100 gas. How much does Guardian cost? 150 gas. Let's see how many Guardians he builds. Let me see if we can find the position where he builds them. Or did he build them already? He built 8 Guardians, right? 8 Guardians, so you already invested like about 1300 gas extra into Meteorisks. Then you invested another 8 times 1500 would be, let me just do the math real quick, 8 Guardians, we'll spend the 4 times 150 would be 600 gas, 1200, another additional 1200 gas into Meteorisk and Guardians, right? So now in total, you've spent 2500 gas into Meteorisk and Guardians, which don't even do that much damage. Let's look at the Guardians, right? The Guardians, I mean, okay, great. You stop mining at a mineral-only base. Great. You spent 2,500 minerals worth of gas to attack mineral-only bases, right? That's not going to do anything. Like, I'm sorry. As, you know, I'm not a pro by any means, and all I'm doing is analyzing the game, but when you do an investment as a pro player, you should understand what you're getting out of the investment. Right, everything is, and this is still part of like a macro. This is still part of your it's not a build order, but it's an understanding of how the game works. Right? If you're going to be building Meteorisk in the early portions of the game as Zerg against Terran, the point of it is to try to keep the Terran forces back in their base so that you have time to delay to get your lurker tech up, to get your 3rd base set up. Right? That's the idea. Lurkers are used to neuter Marine Medic when Marine Medic numbers get too high for Meteorisk. So every portion of the game is just something that pros, I mean, it's known obviously now, and people can do it brainlessly and not even understand it, but that's the idea behind it. When you have an idea like this, it's almost like I don't want to say it's like chess because I hate, you know, when people make the idea, oh, TVT is like chess, right? But it's kind of like chess. And I mean, chess and StarCraft have a lot of similarities because of how much strategy goes into the game. In chess, when you move a pawn a certain way, when you move a knight to a certain square, when you sacrifice a piece, what are you doing? In this situation, Larva is sacrificing 2,500 minerals, and he needs compensation for it. So people who play chess know if you sacrifice, let's say, a bishop or a knight for 1 or 2 pawns, you need some kind of compensation. Maybe you're attacking the king, or maybe you're pushing a pawn to queen the pawn. In this situation, Larva's compensation, what he needs to do with the compensation is, I need to destroy the gas units, the big units, or at least kill a couple bases off. He's not able to kill any command center. He only forces liftoffs. He's only really targeting mineral-only bases with his Guardians and Mutalisks. And otherwise, he's not able to really neuter the tank count. In total, this game, C maybe lost to these Mutalisk and Guardians, maybe lost about 5 or 6 siege tanks for 2,500 worth of gas, when he could have done the same exact thing with Overlords. Now, obviously, he might have to rebuild the Overlords because they're going to die to Goliaths, but he could have done the same thing with a 200 gas investment with Overlord drop. That is the key portion, I think, of why Larva ended up losing this game. I think if he, right before he makes this Mutalisk, right, of course, C is already ahead going into the late game, but before that, the game was still kind of even, right? Larva still had a chance in this game to come back from it. As soon as he made those Mutalisks and Guardians and didn't do enough damage with them, he lost, right? Because C only has to make about 12 Goliaths, which is about 12 times 550. You know, it's about a 600 gas investment into Goliaths, which in total, so now if you offset the numbers, right? You offset roughly about, 600 worth of gas, and you kill a couple tanks. You only really made up for about half the gas that you spent, when 2,500 gas could have spent making Ultralisks. Because remember, he's gonna have to make the Goliaths anyways for a drop upgrade. He doesn't have enough vessels anymore because most of the gas is going to tanks. He's not going to be building vessels anymore. So vessels can't irradiate Overlords, and Overlords have 200 HP, so they take a while to die to irradiate. Goliaths do well against Overlords, but again, you're still dropping units on top, and you just force them to make one round of Goliaths, and then you're using the leftover gas you have, the 2,300 that you're not spending, on the big Ultralisks and a couple extra Defilers on top. And so that really was what it comes down to. I hope you guys really enjoyed this commentary. I actually really enjoy when games get to late game because it really helps me understand why certain players win or lose. Because when it gets to the late game, things get really complicated for a lot of people. They say, oh, I don't know really who's winning. Obviously, I can understand why C won this game, right? He kept up his tank count. He didn't lose too many. His remacro was really great this game, and obviously his early game was great. So you can probably say, okay, that's probably why. But then you also have to understand what did Larva do wrong? Because for some player to do something right, the other player also has to do something wrong. And in this position, Larva did something wrong with those Mutalisk and Guardians. He also was unable to really deal with the Marine Medic pressure in the early game, which I think that he might have wanted to defend more rather than try to go for these kind of Ling backstabs that he attempted. And so maybe that's an idea in the future for Larva, is that he needs to also scout, maybe sacrifice an Overlord, scout the barracks timing, scout how many barracks are there, and then maybe be able to counter that in some other way. Anyways, thank you for watching. Analyze this game number 5 between sorry, I keep saying Flash. Every turn I see is Flash to me. Between C and Larva. Hope you guys enjoy. Once again, shout out to Connor5620 for giving me this game. A great game to analyze as a Zerg player or a Terran player. Definitely want to review this game for how you want to play out the matchup in the future. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching.